And it's Wednesday, and yes, I've got a cold. Hardly a first world problem, but there we are. Bit annoying as we have two shows to do on Sunday at the German Street Theatre, so I'm a little bit hacked off about that. And I just finished. Welcome, by the way. This is the Daily Show on Men's Radio Station. I'm Russ Kane, and I've just done a global webinar, which I'm going to chat to with Neil, all about stress. It was extremely interesting and massively. I've been working on it for months with this particular team, and it was today. It's running all day. I put it on my social media, but it was incredibly well received. I mean, and attended. Huge numbers. I was staggered. Anyway, hello, Francine Warner. You know him. You love him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Neil Long.
Hello. I'm sorry you're not feeling too well, and I apologise for the animal in the background.
What? Do you have a cat that you just bought? A wild creature? This is the sort of comment that I like to get because it puts me in a good mood. Chrissy Richards, listening on her farm in Spain. Hi, Russ. Gorgeous day today. Enjoying spag bol.
Fantastic. Wow. I made a mean spag bol the other night. Hello, Barry J. Allen. Good afternoon, Russ and Neil and everyone. Good afternoon, Barry J. Allen. How are you, man?
Barry J. Allen, The Flash. Spag bol. It can't be beat. I love spag. I could probably have spag bol every day. I love spaghetti bolognese. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's gorgeous. The slower you make it, the better. Anyway, this isn't Radio 2 with cooking tips with Jimmy.
I make a mean chili. I put chocolate in the chili, dark chocolate.
Oh, you've got to put chocolate is the secret key ingredient. Dark chocolate in the chili. Absolutely right.
If you go to one of those specialist chocolate shops and get the chocolate with literally no sugar in, the darkest. I mean, darker than Bourneville. Proper dark chocolate.
No, proper like 85-90% cocoa.
Exactly.
Dave Sleet, who I've already seen this morning. He was being excellent on this webinar. Hi, Dave.
How did it all go, Russ?
Well, it's International Stress Awareness Week. And there's a company, the organization, I'm so sorry, that's been going for 25 years. And they're very organized and very well done. And it was brilliantly done because I've had to do a lot of work behind the scenes, getting it, my sections ready. And then it was beautiful. It had a great moderator who I'd been dealing with, and it was really good. So on the panel, there were 4 of us, and then God knows how many other people watching around the world. I mean, just bonkers. But it was really very, very interesting. About stress, let's dash to New York and say hello to Elizabeth Green. Good morning to you. Let's dash back to the UK. Robert Van Buren. Now then, what does this say? Why is I don't know. It just.
Why is there only one monopolist commission, Graham? These are mysteries of the world.
I have no idea. I can't even get rid of. I can't even find the comment now. Right. So stress. The seminar was about stress, and I was talking about the work that you and I do, and Howard Jameson and Penny Horner have done since we started all this. Combating stress being a real killer, and within no time at all, it got into the whole question of suicide and suicide prevention. It was extraordinary. But Longy, what freaked me out so much and made me realize how important, with a small I, the work we do is, so many people watching this webinar all around the world have said, not just, they have constant suicidal thoughts. Now, I thought it was really just about stress. But the moment the door was open, Neil, the moment that door was open, people said, yeah, I have these terrible suicidal thoughts. I've had them for years. I have to fight them. Somebody said, I've just lost my brother to suicide. And I'm going, whoa, this is going in a very different direction to which I was anticipating. Yeah.
Have you heard of a guy called Andrew Park?
Andrew Park?
Yes. I edited a podcast he was on yesterday, and I'd love to get him on this show. His whole work, I'll just put to his website now because I'll read it better than I'll talk about it. And his whole thrust of his work, he's a speaker now, and and he talks an awful lot about suicide prevention and all these wonderful things. And he does it on, it's TED Talk, and he's fully full-on speaker. It's his work, basically. I'm just looking it up. Can you bear with me for a second, please?
Yeah, no, it was. But
I think
you
it's
know,
important.
there
And
was
actually,
people from all
editing that podcast yesterday. I'm sorry, not Andrew Park. I got that completely wrong. Ryan Park. Heard of him?
Ryan Park. Yes, no, Ryan's been on the show. I know Ryan's been on.
I thought so. I thought that name was familiar.
Ryan's been a guest. No, Ryan's been a guest. Yeah, definitely.
He's the men's coach,
Yeah.
a TEDx speaker,
That's
and
right.
international award-winning public speaker.
Yep.
Takes an evidence-based approach, working with companies and charities that want to improve mental health for men. And on this podcast yesterday, he was giving some fantastic and preventative insights, because my dad, bless him, used to say an ounce of prevention is worth more than a ton of cure. So when you finish talking about your webinar, I'd like to share some of that, if I may, on the show today, because it's really good stuff.
It's very interesting. There was a huge construction company. They had the sort of head of mental health, if you like, for this enormous construction company. She was on the panel with me. And two of the people had been our guests on Monday. Neil, you'll remember them. And from Man Up. Do you remember Man Up, question mark?
I do.
Yeah. So so there's this huge construction company, which is obviously mostly men, because it's physical stuff and driving trucks and building motorways and building bridges. It's very heavy stuff. And trying to get them to talk is really, really interesting, because they bottle it up. Which goes back to exactly when I started all this with Penny. Men bottling it up, men not speaking, men not giving vent to their real feelings. And
because
women,
there's a cultural trope, a cultural meme on what men are supposed to be like. And now the science is coming in and gaining momentum. We're seeing that this is simply not true, and it's actually doing us more harm than good. There was a profound quote that Andrew Park came up with yesterday. And again, I'm just going to...
Ryan Park.
Where am I getting Andrew from? I'm so sorry.
You're obsessed with somebody called Andrew. I have no idea.
Yeah. But Ryan Park came up with this incredible quote: trying to be a man kills a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that again, let that sink in. Trying to be a man, in other words, the societal conditioning that we're all part of, trying to be a man actually kills a lot of men.
Yeah.
Or at best leads them to the point of burnout.
I don't want to keep going over the same ground all the time, but it's so important. And I hadn't realized that when they were asking me the questions, they'd prepared the questions they wanted to ask me, because I had an hour interview with them beforehand a couple of weeks ago with the moderator. But it's the same themes. These are themes that are there, that need to be addressed. Man up, grow a pair, big boys don't cry, and all that sort of stuff. All that
bullshit, yeah.
It is just not helpful, but interestingly,
it's dangerous potentially.
The end quote. Let me run this by you, and I'd like to know what everybody watching and listening all around the world think about this. The final question from the moderator, who was absolutely excellent, I have to say, was, could you give one piece of advice? How should you communicate with someone if you're worried about them? And I said, it's easy. What should you do? And I said, phone. Pick up the phone. Don't text or email, because we are snowblind with all the thousands of bloody emails and texts and WhatsApp and all the crap we get every single day. Plowing through it takes up hours. So non-productive. So I said, pick up the phone and see if they're okay, and then phone the next day if you're not sure. And all these people said, no, phoning is very stressful. No, I'm very stressed. And I'm thinking, wow, we really have. And I didn't want to argue. I'm a guest, although I'm a panelist, but I was a guest. And I thought, no, let's not take issue with this massive global audience. It was huge. But my thinking was, and then I'd love to know what everybody thinks. we're so divorced from being people. We're so divorced from humanity that we just exist in this kind of digital bubble. And it's so depressing because what is wrong? And I was stunned. People said, oh, no, not a phone call. It's much too stressful. Jesus Christ, it's a phone call. We're so moved away from just reaching out, and everything's got to be an email or a what. You know, pick up the bloody phone. We're not 12. But no, they wouldn't have it. Where are you on that? If you knew, say you knew somebody, your pal.
Well, it
X,
wasn't a mental health related
was
thing,
struggling.
but it is relevant. A friend of mine, because you're right, there's so many platforms that we can get in touch with each other with: Instagram, Instant Messenger, text, email, and a bunch of others, Telegram, a bunch of others, right? Oh, actually, Chrissy, my daughter's terrible at answering texts, and I cherish her with every fibre of my being.
It's horrendous. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. It's very depressing. Anyway,
well, there's lots coming up here, which I want to get into. But I said, so how do I get in touch with you, mate? And he went, a phone call. And it seemed so obvious. And I thought, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of that because I assumed that it would be WhatsApp or text or what or whatever.
But a phone call's nice. One of my best pals, Larry, he knew I was going through some stuff recently, and he phoned from Mexico. He was away on holiday, and he phoned me from Mexico, and that is the sort of person you call a real friend. Not someone sending you sodding jokes all the time. It's nice, but it's okay. But when you really need it, to get a phone call all the way from Mexico when they're on holiday, what a wonderful, supportive. And I thought, yeah. Elizabeth Green saying this. I had a thing that if someone popped into my mind, I would call. Broke my word with myself. And my dear friend died 2 days ago. What would you like me to say about that? You think you get something that pops in your head, act on it. Act on it. Could you read this? Because my throat is...
Yes, the loss of connectivity is a massive factor that reinforces the false narratives that our negative gremlins scream at us. That's right. And I know why that is now. I learned this the other day. Do you want a little bit of neuroscience?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the unconscious mind, we've got two levels of mind, conscious and unconscious. We need the unconscious mind because it automates things. Without it, we'd be absolutely screwed. We'd have to learn.
Explain.
How to
you mean like how to walk down the street?
Yes,
like how to breathe.
How
like,
to open
those
a door,
automatic things.
How to use a petrol pump when you go into a petrol station. We've got like unconscious stereotypes of this, which are useful. They're useful ones, but sometimes it overgeneralizes and over emotionalizes the wrong things that we don't want, and that can become automatic too. And that's where interventions like NLP on various counseling is helpful when we generalize the wrong things. So the principle of generalization, we all need it, but it can also be, I don't want to say misused by the mind. It's like the mind is really clever, but someone's saying playing tricks. Not quite. The mind is really clever, but it doesn't always do what we want it to do. And it comes from our evolution where basically we needed to be in a tribe of people basically to survive. And the unconscious is most prime directive is to keep us safe, keep us safe, keep us safe, keep us safe. So when we're in a bit of a tailspin, it seems, as Dave Sleet eloquently put it, the negative gremlins scream at us. That's because when we're in a tailspin, the unconscious is on full alert, fight or fly or freeze, going, let me find every single example I can think of to keep them safe. So all the negative thoughts that we thought we'd move past will flood in at that moment. It's a good intention of the unconscious mind, but a poor strategy. Because the truth is, we're not in those tribal times anymore. We don't get chased by saber-toothed tigers. And most of the time, our lives aren't in danger. So we don't want to go around reacting as if our life is about to come to an end or about to get eaten. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting you say that, although current events now make me doubt that. I didn't think that. But I think we are now. I genuinely do believe that.
And also, it fires up the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, which is an almond-shaped organ inside of the brain. And that constantly monitors for danger. Keep us safe, keep us safe. That's the physical part of the mental bit, the mind, if you like. We've got a physical organ called the amygdala, all right? But when that gets triggered, all the blood rushes out the prefrontal cortex because it's needed for there. So therefore, the prefrontal cortex, the most evolved part of us as humans, goes offline. And that's why we don't make good decisions under stress. We can't. It's offline at the moment.
Yeah.
So I would argue with times like this, particularly with world events, we need this kind of information more than ever. It's an irony of life that when we need this information the most, we kind of shy away from it. We need it more than ever now. We need to be in touch with the most conscious, the most aware parts of ourselves at the moment. We need to acknowledge our emotions, not wallow in them, but manage them and manage them skillfully so we can be on top of what we need to be on top of, right?
Here's the thing that I've learned, and I use it every day. You know, if I get emotional about something, I won't write. In other words, I get a really shitty email or something like that, and my blood boils. Won't respond. The old me, years and years and years ago, when I've been, F off and gone mad, it's not the way to deal with it. Think about it. Because with timescales, don't work to other people's agendas. Don't work to their timescale. They're putting on a false narrative. They're putting on their timescale onto you. It's not your timescale. I've got to hear from you. No. You may think so. I don't.
We can run our own timescales.
So I will reply to
before,
you.
I've used the phrase sovereign being, which we are. It sounds a bit highfalutin, but ultimately we are. The most important person in our lives has to be ourselves, because if we're not full, we can't give to anyone else. And when we are full, then we have so much more to give, and we're so much more authentic. You could call it the selfishness paradox.
It's not selfish. It's not selfish. Nothing selfish about looking after yourself. Let me be clear. What I'm not saying is, there's a train leaving at 3 o'clock and you go, well, I'll rock up when I'm in the mood. No, I'm not talking about that. But what I'm talking about, it could be family issues, emotional issues, usually business issues.
Yeah, but it's someone else's
it's their issue.
Yours.
They're jumping up and down.
Yes, it's their urgency. It's not yours.
It doesn't mean you have to.
We're in charge of managing ourselves, not other people, and that's the point. Would you like to know what I learned on this podcast yesterday?
I would. I just want to finish this point. I would very much like to know what you know. But
of course,
so many of us are driven by other people and their agenda and their needs. And the thing is, no. One, just say no. Don't have to make an excuse. Just say no. Two is don't write in anger. I mean, I know the John Osborne play was Don't Look Back in Anger, but don't write in anger.
And the great Oasis song.
That's it. Yeah, I've forgotten that. You'll regret it. You will instantly regret it. And one of the most bullshit things is Fred Smith would like to retract that email that was sent out. Too late, matey. It's like trying to say Fred Smith would like to retract the bullet he just put into someone's heart. No, too late. So that's a nonsense, Don't write in anger. And if you want to get it off your chest, write it as a draft. Look at it in a few hours' time. And when you read
there's a driving equivalent.
Jesus, thank God I didn't send that.
There's a driving equivalent invented by the wonderful Nikki, who was on the show the other day, called the silent finger. The silent finger.
Excuse me? The silent finger.
So if someone cuts you up, you can either go into road rage or you can give them the finger, but silently.
Yeah.
So you do it where they can't see it. So I do it behind the door where they can't see it. And I really mean it. I really give them the finger behind the door. But it doesn't escalate it. And I feel better. The silent finger, it's a good one.
It's so true. I got stuck in one of these poxy marches. And as I walked past, I will not say what I was saying in my head to each and every one of them, but I felt so much better. Liz Saul says, when I get emails like that, I have a good old rant about it. Quite right. Don't internalize it. Yell and scream. That's fine. But won't reply for at least a couple of days. It has very recently worked for me. Well, that's
and I actually recorded that last rant, and it's now a part of a dance record that I'm making.
Well, it's a rant and a rave. Chrissy Richards in Spain, the body language said a good book is, what is this? Extreme responsibility, about taking responsibility for something. This is what Neil bangs on about every show, and he's absolutely damn well
Well,
right.
hang on though, but there's a better way of putting it. Let me put it on the screen.
That's
The
Liz Saul
word-
coughing, by the way, everybody.
The word responsibility,
Yeah.
for me, because of the kind of society that we live in,
Hmm.
it's got quite a heavy feeling. You're responsible for this. You're responsible for your friends. You're responsible for your children. You are responsible. And it's kind of a heavy feeling. The way I like to put it is like this on the screen: responsibility. Now, remember when we talked about NLP, we talked about the map not being the territory. In other words, we've all got a map of the world, and the job of a good NLP practitioner is to expand their client's map so they have more choices in any given situation. Responsibility. It gives us more flexibility. And there's something also in NLP called the law of requisite variety, and that in English means basically,
whoa there, Dr. Seuss. What?
I was just about to explain it. The law of requisite variety, in English, that basically means the person with the most flexibility has more control of the situation. The person with the least flexibility, where if you've only got a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. If you've got a bigger map of the world and more choices, more responsibility, more ability to respond, then you have a greater choice of things. You have more flexibility and are liable to be more in control of the situation, not less. If you don't have responsibility, you do this. If you don't have responsibility, you tend to hold on. Oh, I've just got to get rid of one banner. One moment.
Yeah.
If you don't have responsibility, let me just say this, it ties in nicely. If you don't have responsibility, and we all see people that, we all see people that do this all the time. People mindless. You're either able to respond or you can react like you did before. And we all know people that get triggered into the same behaviors again and again and again.
Don't do it.
And they don't have that requisite variety. They don't have the flexibility. They don't have the responsibility. All they can do is react like they did before.
Do you know why I love what you just said? If you've, I've never thought about, I think you've said it and somehow it's gone in left ear and come out the right ear, but today it's hit hard. And I love this. This is an absolute longie.
What was that?
If you only have a hammer, everything you see is a nail. That's just.
I'll put it on the screen then.
Right.
You like it
I love it. I love. Think about that. That is such a clever way of putting it. Like if your whole worldview is a hammer, then you treat everything that comes along as I've got to smack that nail into the wood, into the wall, into whatever the hell it is. Doesn't matter. Wow. In Dave Sleet's next book, we've got so many comments coming in, we've got to deal with them. Dave Sleet's next book, he says the whole section of my next book is on reaction versus responses.
Absolutely, Dave. That's exactly the point I'm making.
It's no good. I love that. If you only have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Bloody love that.
And it comes down
it's no
this
good.
Generalization thing again. Yeah. And this is where generalization doesn't serve us. I'll give you a really poignant example of where overgeneralization does not serve us. Okay. We will cover that in a second, Kim. Sorry, Kimmy, we've gone off a bit of a tangent, but we will come back to that, I promise. A friend of mine was attacked in Tooting, my friend's dad, actually. And the guy that did it happened to be black. Okay. Now, I'm not making any judgments here.
You don't need to. This is men's radio. We don't have to do the BBC.
Okay. The guy, he was attacked by a black bloke in Tooting. And for the rest of his life, he had a fear of all black people. Now, clearly, our logical minds, our prefrontal cortex knows that not all black or white or any kind of people will be dangerous or attack you. Of course not. That's nonsense.
No,
but his unconscious was keep him safe, keep him safe, keep him safe. And it would bring that up. And he would literally react every single time because he didn't have the ability to respond in a different way. Right?
It's no different, Neil, than if someone, my cousin got bitten as a kid as a dog, and it's taken him now decades later to be able to deal with dogs. Because the same as not every black person is going to come up and mug you. Of course they're bloody not. Not every dog is going to come up and bite your ankles or your arm or something.
And not
It
every
just
white
won't.
person is this, and not every Jewish
No.
person is that, and not
No,
and
no,
insert
no.
blanks here. You know,
Yeah,
but these are
I get it.
overgeneralizations that do not serve us, and this is the problem with it.
Yeah.
But we need that
Right.
generalization, otherwise we'd have to learn how to open a door every time we walked up to it. So it just needs to be kept in balance, and that's I suppose, the challenge of self-management.
I love
being
this thing
human.
that Dave Sleet, the grand poobah of ANA, a company called ANA, APA, the whole section of my book, Reaction versus Responses. If you get, let's just give an example. You get a really lousy email, and we'll come on to you in a second, Kimmy, I promise. You get a really lousy email. You can respond or you can react. The reaction is, how dare you? And you go raving mad.
Reaction is fuck off. Who are you?
Yes, that's exactly right. Exaction is F you, blah, blah, blah. That achieves absolutely nothing. And you will feel better for 10 seconds. It's better to shout at your office desk and tell the person, tell the air. I do that. Fine.
Liz, one of my closest friends, is my ranting partner. If I need to get angry about something, I say, do you mind if I rant? And my God, I rant. I can really go. But the thing is, she knows it's not personal at her, so she will quite happily sit there and listen, and vice versa.
But
and take the piss.
That's react. To respond, I want to see if I've got this, but I want to see if I've got it right. But to respond is to think about it, to contemplate it, to really work down what you want your response to be, and then reply.
It's basically slowing.
Don't reply with emotion. Don't reply with emotion. There's absolutely
it's slowing the process down.
0 point.
It's slowing the process.
Slow the whole damn thing down. We're coming on to Kimmy, and right after this from Dave Sleet. This is genius. A great response to the hammer mindset. Only when you have a mosquito on your testicle do you learn not to solve every problem with a hammer.
Well, that would do it, Dave. I'd say there's more elegant ways in the psychological community, but that would probably work.
That's
yes,
absolutely
it's a little
right.
crude and clunky, but yes, I'll give you the point.
Right. Kimmy has been very patient, and here's the question. Going back, because some of you are listening and not seeing the show, so that's why it's audio only for some of you, I guess. But going back, how can you respond to someone who's feeling suicidal? What do you get from that? Well, I'll have a go first, and then Neil has a bit more time to think about it. How do you respond? Talk to them. And one of the things that came out from the webinar, and this was really key, and I hadn't thought about this phrase, and I love this phrase, take off the white coat. Take off the white coat. You're not a doctor. You're not a therapist. You're not a counselor. You're a friend. All right? Take off the white coat. Don't try and fix it. You can't fix it. You can't. What you can do is you listen. And so many of these senior figures on this webinar, very senior, I mean, not like me, I mean, proper senior, and professionals were saying, know when to shut up, know when to talk, but know when to shut up.
Yeah, there's some good advice online about it.
And I thought,
you got one of these and two of those.
It's absolutely right. Listen to what they're saying, but don't. I think one of the big mistakes, and again, this came from this webinar, this global webinar today, is that you go in thinking, right, I'll fix it. You can't fix it. You can't. What you can do is listen. And by listening, I guarantee you will diffuse some of that situation.
Yes,
because if the person knows, this is just my personal view, but if the person knows you're actually listening.
Yes, I know. When people feel heard, when people feel heard, it does tend to diffuse an awful lot of things. Comes back to this NLP principle, first one I taught on the show. You were and are a human being doing your best with the knowledge and resources and map of the world that you have. Cut yourself a break.
Yeah.
And this one, you already have all the resources you need. Okay. And when people talk things out and feel heard, okay, particularly women, I would say, but also men to some degree.
Oh, no. I'd say it's 50-50. I really would. I really
I'd say it's a little more on the women's side, but we don't have to agree on that. You are enough. You always were. Good to know or be reminded. And if someone can talk things out and get some clarity, some distance, so they can see the forest for the trees, then they're much more likely to find their own solution, because we do have the solutions inside us. But it takes someone to sometimes give us that non-judgmental space, that safe space, so we can take the mask off and be open and get to the real core of the issue, and then find the answer for ourselves in front of trusted people in a safe space. That is really important.
Now, this morning I got into trouble a little bit. How
Did you?
unusual for me. Because I was saying that when we set up men's radio and women's radio, but particularly for men's radio, I didn't like the phrase safe space. I prefer a non-judgmental space. And then some people took umbrage. I mean, Jesus, what a world. I mean, you could say, hey, I like Sooty and Sweep, and someone's going to call you a fascist. I mean, it's just bullshit, isn't it? But anyway, cutting through that, they said, no, we like
I did
safe.
fancy Sue a bit.
You're a sick bastard. You are one sick bastard. No wonder you got an asthma, can only live in Tolworth. Anyway, not allowed in London. He's not allowed. Banned. So, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, it's like they didn't like non-judgmental. They liked. So I said, well, look, it's kind of the same thing. It just means that you won't be criticized. You won't be.
I love the way they're being judgmental about something that's non-judgmental.
It was fantastic. Yeah, I have to say that was like a bit like.
I mean, the irony isn't lost on me on that.
Thank you. And I was a bit like, Russie, shut the hell up, don't, because I was like ready to go, and I thought, especially I woke up with his throat. I'm not in a good mood, and I'm like, I was really ready to have a pop, and I thought, nah, come on, man, you're a guest, just sitting on the panel. Big grown up, don't be your 17-year-old self. He was a lunatic. The day says this, allowing someone to trust, that's his type of thing, so he talks about it a lot. Allowing someone to trust, understand, and believe that they're valued. Yeah. This is it. Right. This is coming in possibly on my Espresso. If you want to join the Espresso bar on my Facebook, please do. You have to be a guy. Sorry, ladies. You have to be a guy. Kimmy, having been in the... Could you read this, Neil? My throat's really going. Would you mind?
Kimmy, having been in a bad space in the past, just listen, support, be there for them as much as you can. It's such a difficult thing to handle. If you can find out what's eating them up, it's a good place to start. I think I read a quote, actually, Facebook user, whoever you are, and Kimmy, that the greatest gift you can give someone is your full attention and presence. Do you remember that episode of the show that we did about a week ago? And we said, let's just be here with each other. And I found that a really powerful show.
Yeah.
A collective of people with the same intention magnifies it. And it's really, really powerful. So it's not just like two, video radio presenters talking at you. We're actually talking together. We're in a kind of community at the moment.
The one thing I've said from day one. All right, I'm just going to get this off my chest. If I watch BBC and stuff, it was like they're doing you a favour. We're so clever, we're so smart, you're a member of the public, you're an idiot, and we'll patronise you. Kind of the subtext I always get. Whereas Neil's house is falling apart. Whereas...
Yeah, I just spilled something.
We're oh, bugger. Do you want to go and sort it?
No, I'm all right, thank you. I have staff.
Sure. All right. Oh, yeah. You're brave, but stupid. That was brave, but we'll do you.
It was brave.
No. Do you like soup? Because that's what you're going to be eating for about a month once she's finished with you. So, what I'm saying is we're all in the same boat here. We're only facilitators. Neil, myself, Phil, Dave. We're facilitators. We're not telling you what's right and what's wrong. You're all over 21. Come on, you can run your own lives. But we're exchanging ideas. It's a forum. A word I don't really like, but it's a forum. And they said, a lot of people were asking questions this morning on this global webinar. Well, how did you get people to open up on your shows? And I said, well, you've got to build trust, which is another of Dave Sleep's points, but you've got to build trust. And I said, it's not the BBC or one of those stupid daytime shows. It's long format. So if somebody wants to talk and it's a serious subject, we don't give them 3 minutes and then go on to get yourself Beachbody fit after the break. I mean, we just don't.
We
It's
just
a
don't.
long format.
And sometimes
You
we
give them the
invite
space
wonderful
to
people
talk.
on and give them some tricks and tips live on air and help them feel better.
Yeah, I
Would
mean,
you
that
like
was
to learn?
fantastic that you did.
Would you like to learn what I learned on this podcast yesterday?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it. With Ryan
I'm
Park.
mindful of the time. I wouldn't mind getting Ryan Park back on the show. The podcast, by the way, is
Get him
called
back
Men
on.
on.
Well, get him back on the show.
All right. The
Get him
podcast, by the
in.
way, is called Men on Show, and it's streaming now on all the good platforms. It's a
Okay.
client of mine called Andrew Payne, and it's a really, really good podcast. That's Payne, spelled P-A-I-N. Andrew Payne, Men on Show. And we hear all the stories about men doing bad things. This is about men doing great things, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, authenticity, and all that good stuff. So men's mental health needs. A lot of people say men never talk, and that is true. One of them is, yes, true, openness and a willingness to talk to a degree. There is a slight gender difference here. When a man opens up and talks, or when a woman opens up and talks.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Neil. I hate to interrupt. Forgive me. Oh, Chrissy. Jesus. God damn. Chrissy, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry too, Chrissy. That's awful.
The thing. I'm going to try and read this out. Chrissy, I'm so sorry. The thing that triggered my son, he had demons from the army. He had a night out with a partner and told the taxi to go right. And the taxi went left. No one ever listens to what I say. He got angry and he hanged himself. Christ. Jeez. Okay, we'll bounce back from that, Neil Long. It's like, jeez.
I'm so sorry to hear
whatever
that,
whatever you're going through in life, if everybody watching this show all around the world put their problems into a top hat, and a moderator or a psychiatrist said, okay, everybody put your hand in that top hat, you'd be praying you got your own problems back. You really would. Because that, Chrissy, I don't know how you put one foot in front of the other. I'm welling up. I'll be absolutely frank with you, which is useless. It's of no use to you or anybody else. But I'm like welling up because I'm thinking, how does this woman put one foot in front of the other?
I can only say, Chrissy, that we are all in this together. We're here for you. We're here to support you, and I hope you find some comfort and possibly some answers by listening to some of the things that we're talking about. And you're very, very welcome here.
Well,
and it is very much a safe
sure.
space. I'll go back to what I was saying. Openness and a willingness to talk is the first one. When a woman does that and a man, it triggers a certain hormone in the brain, which is called oxytocin, which is known as the cuddle or bonding or tend and befriend hormone. It's got all those names. Now, here's the key difference. Men do need this somewhat, but too much of it lowers testosterone. They kind of play off each other. And when oxytocin goes really high, testosterone goes really low. Okay, that would also explain why when a man has been married a long time and has children and is experiencing unconditional love, oxytocin, sometimes the sex drive goes down because the testosterone level goes down. That would explain that little phenomenon as well. But testosterone...
Why is that back? It's too big. It's too big a thing that you've just said. Wind it back and just do it.
Okay, I'll go back to the beginning. Men's mental health needs are as follows, and this will all be explained as I go along. I probably don't need to wind it back. I probably need to keep going forward. Let me go forward with it, and I'll take questions at the end if I may, because I've done it in such a way you haven't seen what I've prepared. So
okay,
it will.
All right, boy.
It will.
Off you go.
When a woman talks, as one of her girl chats, or men to a degree, it releases oxytocin, which you've probably heard of. It's up there with your serotonins and your dopamines and noradrenalines and all that. Yeah. It's a hormone. It's a brain neurotransmitter. And it's called the cuddle hormone, the bonding hormone, or the tend and befriend hormone.
Who knew?
Okay. All right.
Who knew? Okay.
It's been called all those things. Men do need this somewhat, but too much of it lowers testosterone. Sometimes the higher the oxytocin goes in a man, the lower his testosterone gets. Okay. That would explain why someone like a vicar who spends an awful lot of time being loving and counseling people. And I don't mean this rudely, but a lot of them aren't the most kind of macho kind of men. And that's because the testosterone level is low. Okay. That's not to be offensive to anyone. This is just neuroscience. All right. It would also explain why a man's been married for a while and has children who we would hope he loves unconditionally. Unconditional love is oxytocin. That will lower testosterone as well. But testosterone, and by the way, it's possible to have both. It's possible to be still married and have great sex. I'll just throw that in. Testosterone really matters.
Hang on, whoa. With your partner or with a total stranger up the road? I think you need to
well,
because you could be married, still having great
sex.
sex.
One would hope with our partner.
But,
although if it was with a total stranger, it would trigger.
Just wanted clarification there.
I'm just telling the truth here. I know not a lot of this might. Okay, I'm going to put a disclaimer on. This might not be politically correct what I'm about to say. Okay, however, it is anatomically and biologically correct. If you have sex with a total stranger, that will be novelty, and it'll be most likely be exciting for a bit and trigger dopamine. All right, that's the thing. That's serial monogamy. That's where serial monogamy comes from. All right, because it's novelty. Okay, but it is possible to be in a loving relationship and still have great sex. I'll just throw that one in there with your partner. Okay, women tend to say if he would only talk about his feelings. Again, girls, that is partly true. It's not the whole enchilada. Women think if a man would only open up like she does with her girlfriends and she feels so much better. Reason why, her oxytocin goes right up. Okay, and that's where it needs to be for a woman. It is true in many cases for a woman, but not all. It's not the whole picture for a man, though it is important. I'm not downplaying the importance of it. Opening up a bit of oxytocin, super important, but not the whole picture. He also needs these. The guy, Ryan Park, did a load of research after someone he knew that had it all on paper, very tragically killed himself. All right, and he literally had it all. He literally had it all on paper, the perfect life. And then this really knocked him sideways, needed a load of research, and these are the common denominators that he found in all the research. First one we've talked about, openness and a willing to talk, with the caveats that I've just talked about. Okay. Number 2, sleep. We're back to basics here.
Sleep.
Did you know 1 hour's less sleep can lower a man's testosterone for days? And we're talking about men and women.
Explains and me.
Okay. I'm going to give you an unfun fact in a minute, but gender difference here for men and women. Men need 30 times more testosterone than women. 30 times. And that is medical, biological proven fact. 30 times. Do women need it? Yes, but nowhere near as much as men. All right. I want to debunk a myth now about testosterone. Back in the 90s, I used to remember women going, let's say, into a pub and walking into a bunch of blokes, and they're all sort of acting all like macho and hard. And the phrase was, it's like walking into a wall of testosterone. In other words, testosterone's the bad guy. Too much testosterone causes fights. Too much testosterone causes violence. Yeah. The opposite is true. This has recently been debunked, but not everyone knows it yet. What happens is, if his testosterone is too low, his estrogen level will go up. He will go into his feminine, and I don't mean this in a sexist way. I said this wouldn't be politically correct, emotional side, and that's when the fights are likely to start. It's the lowering of testosterone that causes the violence and the fights, not the proper levels.
Really? That's a complete turning on its head of everything we've been taught.
Yep. It is a complete turning on its head, and it is also biologically absolutely accurate. And there is established proven science for that. It's the lowering of testosterone that causes the problems in men.
I'm no scientist, so I have to. I'm listening.
And here's an unfun fact. The heart attack rate for men goes up by 30% when the clocks go forward and we lose an hour in bed.
Oh, don't. Christ.
That's the biggest day
for make it through the show, it'll be a miracle.
Why? Because losing 1 hour can lower a man's testosterone for days. We should go to bed an hour early when the clocks go forward, men. So,
speaking of which, Ebony the Mini Schnauzer cannot get over this time of changing the clock earlier than she should, which is quite annoying because she tap dances everywhere and she drives you mad. I sleep badly, so God knows what state I'm in. As you can probably see today.
So number 1, openness and a willingness to talk. Number 2, sleep. Number 3,
Oh,
adequate levels of vitamin D.
Oh yeah,
Either
I
go
do that. I do
outside
that.
in the sun for 10 minutes in the summer or take supplements of vitamin D. We need vitamin D. It is super
Yep.
important. Without it, a man's mental health will not be as good as it can be.
Plus, Longy, plus. I take vitamin D. I take a million supplements. Certainly vitamin D because we live in the UK and it's rubbish. But I bought myself, I think I mentioned it, and I'll mention it again, a SAD lamp. Was it seasonal affect disorder? What's it called? Seasonal what?
Seasonal
Anyway, one of
affective
those lamps.
disorder.
Right. Got it on my desk. I'm at my desk for hours and hours and hours a day. And it's good. It's good. I thought, for 30 quid, if it's crap, okay, it's not the end of the world. Won't have a couple of coffees, it'll be fine. Right? I'll make up for it. It's really good, Neil. These SAD lamps, really good.
Yeah, because
Nice.
it
It's just
most
nice. You
likely,
feel better.
I would guess it ups the vitamin D level, and that's
Yeah.
why it feels good.
And look,
Simple as that.
the trouble with adverts, and I think the stuff you're doing today is just terrific.
Yeah,
But the
not
trouble
quite
with
done yet.
adverts, they go, I bought a SAD lamp and now I feel fantastic. Oh, but no, we live in the real world. Do I feel a bit better? Yeah, I feel a little bit better. So, okay. I put it down to the light. I put it down to who the hell knows, but it doesn't hurt. Do I feel any worse? Absolutely not. So there you go.
Number 4,
Yep.
no surprises there. Exercise, but not super macho, going to punish myself at the gym. The more fun the exercise, the better. Do you know how I exercised yesterday? I stood in front of those decks. Can you see those? I don't know.
Does it involve Liz? No. Does it involve? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, it
No, I
doesn't
can't see
involve
anything.
Liz.
Just
I
see
stood in
your
front of the
lovely
decks.
background. What did you do?
I stood in front of the
Oh, okay.
decks.
No,
and
I was checking. I'm allowed
and I
as a
mixed
friend. I'm allowed
records.
to ask. Yep.
I stood in front of the decks and I did some beat match mixing, some DJ practice, and danced and got my heart rate up.
I
for
don't know
about
what
20
he's
minutes.
saying. I don't know what he's saying.
I did DJ practice
I got
while
as far
moving
as I stood at the-
vigorously.
Thank you. In English.
And number 5,
In English.
healthy
Oh,
food.
God, Liz.
Come
is
on, guys, let's be
dancing.
serious here.
Christ.
This is serious stuff. All right.
Well, tell your friend to stop dancing. It's not
I mean,
Pam's people.
because this literally, I'm not being funny, but this can be the difference between life and death. So it's pretty important,
Yeah,
right?
it can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, number 1, openness and a willingness to talk. Number 2, sleep, with that unfun statistic about sleep, which I told you. Number 3, vitamin D. Number 4, exercise. Number 5, healthy food. So not super processed foods. That is the package of men's mental health.
And I'm with you.
That is the complete package.
I'm with you. My stomach and digestive system, I'm with you. If I ever have anything, I think, well, that's quite nice. It just bloody kills me. Absolutely kills me. So I try and, I'm not super healthy with my food. I don't pretend to be, but I'm not bad. I'm really not bad. I'm certainly a lot.
Well, they say
better
all
than-
health begins in the gut because we have a gut brain.
Well,
and the posh name for that is the microbiome, and that's all the bacteria that are in our stomachs. We are actually slightly more bacteria than human, by the way. There's more bacteria in us than human. So we are slightly more bacteria than human. And if that microbiome's out of balance, it can throw everything off balance. So a good probiotic probably wouldn't hurt as well. That gut microbiome, that communicates with the whole body. We're not like in different parts. We are a holistic, integrated mind-body system.
There you go. Hang on. Chrissy, that can't be right. I just want to say something, by the way. Let me save you some money.
Done. That's it.
No. I just want to save some money. There are so many adverts and video ads and YouTube ads about the secret of gut health, and they're all rubbish. They're just terrible. I've tried so many.
I'll tell you who's a good authority on this. If you want it without all the hyperbole, if you Google this guy, this guy is very, very good. Oh God, I've got to take a couple off. Sorry, it's too many banners. Wait a minute.
Yeah, there's loads of banners here.
But look up this guy.
Who he?
Oh. Hold on.
Okay.
Get your pens ready.
Pens ready. There'll be questions asked at the end. Thank you.
Either of these two.
Okay. Neil's fingers are a blur.
They
mix
are.
master at work.
Either of these, either the Urban Monk or John Gray, who is the guy that wrote the Mars Venus books, but he's done an awful lot on natural health and neurotransmitters and male and female health with the gender appropriate gender differences, because men's and women's needs are different. But if you look up either of those, that's really good on microbiomes and supplements and all that sort of thing, and they will steer you really well. Those two.
Right. And it's true, but a lot of those expensive things, I've tried so many. Nothing. Chrissy Richards out in Spain. I have to take vitamin D from the doctor for 12 months. 1 tab a month. Chrissy, you can't be taking. You take 1 tab a day. You take like 1,000 milligrams a day, sweetheart. You don't take 1 a month. Told her to sit in the sun for an hour. Absolutely. Drink vitamin D. Totally so. Absolutely. And yes, you know what? Everything that Neil said. Do you know what it boils down to? It boils down to something very simple. Use your noggin. Use your noggin, for Christ's sake. If you're living on 3 hours, I've been there, I've done it. If you're living on 3-4 hours sleep, you're going to feel shit. And I've been there and done it, and I've tried to wean myself off, okay? If you're eating fast foods, what protein do you think they're in? Well, I'll give you a clue. 0. Forget all the adverts. They're fast processed. They're awful. They're awful. It takes you no longer to cook a bit of chicken or something. I don't touch them. I genuinely don't touch fast food. Not because I don't like it. I happen to think
it's okay.
To be honest with you, KFC.
Just not all the time.
My guilty passion. KFC.
Sometimes a bit of what you fancy does you good. It's very good for the soul. I had a night the other night. Out of the pub drinking with my friends, and it was very good for the soul but very bad for my body, but it was great fun, and that's important too. It's all about balance, right?
It's interesting. Chrissy, back to Chrissy, because I think she needs a bit of a hug. Since the hours changed, Mike, that's her other half, and Kiki, luckily she said that's the dog, go to bed at 8 p.m. Bloody hell. Now instead of 9 p.m. Me, I go at 11 p.m. You crazy party animal. Lee Durnford, what does it cost to run? That's my sad lamp. I haven't the faintest. Not much, because I put it on low. I don't have it like screaming in my face because I can't see properly. And then what do we got? This come on, Russell. The hormonal Jesus Christ. The hormonal balancing in men is as vital as it is in women. The balancing is not uniform for both sexes. The attempt to treat the sexes' mental health equally is dangerous.
Agreed. And where this came from, Dave, came from suddenly a lot of people got on board with the whole there shouldn't be this disparity between men and women, particularly in the workplace. And I agree with that. But what they did something called gender blindness, and and it's exactly what Dave says. It's treating them as if they're exactly the same, and that's not right. Okay, it is true. It is true that they're equal, as good as each other, but the needs are slightly different. So gender blindness, it's better than rampant sexism, but it's only the halfway mark. It needs to go. It needs to be in the workplace and in all contexts, the general allowing for the differences and the unique needs of the particular men and women in that context, not treating them as if they're the same. They're not.
You know, there is so much BS, and people are just too scared to say anything about anything anymore.
As I said, it wasn't going to be politically correct what I said today, but it is biologically correct.
But Longy, Jesus, why have we got to the stage? You're trying to have an adult conversation about adult stuff that's important, and you've got to add so many caveats. And do you know what? It's just words. So if somebody did, one of our viewers, one of the members that said, "Oh, that's sexy," that big deal. So what? That's your opinion. It's your opinion.
And I did not mean anything I said
not everyone's opinion.
Sexist,
just your opinion.
Discriminatory way. I'm just telling the truth. If people have got a problem with that, they've got a problem.
But we live now where the truth is irrelevant. I can't even get into. I'm in a constant state of rage at the moment.
And can set you free when you have enough of it. Oh, a shameless plug for your stand-up comedy.
Well, you know, there's no point in having poured my heart, soul, and finances along with Howard and Penny into this if you can't do this. There are literally a tiny handful of seats. This is this Sunday in London at the Jermyn Street Theatre, which is, funnily enough, in Jermyn Street, just opposite.
Is anyone who's watching on here going, by the way? Because I'll see you there.
I think Julie Voice. I think Julie Voice is coming. I think so.
Are you going,
Anyway.
Julie? I'll come and say hello. We'll have a
It'd be
cheeky drink.
lovely to see everybody. German Street Box
And
Office,
listen.
the 3 o'clock show, 6 o'clock show, 0207 287 2875. I'll give you that again slowly.
And I'll be outside half an hour before the performance selling rotten tomatoes.
Laced with razor blades. 0207 287 2875. You know, I'm going to divert for a second because we've got like 5 minutes. You've just added a whole load of caveats. So like, no, I'm not saying I'm not this, but these are facts, right? And it takes months to write a show like I'm putting on Sunday. Months.
Yeah, it does.
And it really takes a long time. It's like an hour and a half monologue, basically. And there's gags and stuff. But I found myself, I think in the world we live in, it's much more aggressive than my previous shows. It's much more in your face. And I know some people will go, well, this is tasteless or this is that. But I think in my heart, absolutely in my heart, we live in a world where everything's gone mad. It's just gone mad. And this is our bit of sanity 3 times a week. I hope you find it, you know, we're become a little group, not that little really, we've become a group. And, you know, Neil does, I do it from more an emotional, practical point. Neil does it from far more technical because he's hugely well read and I don't pretend to be in the field that Neil finds so fascinating. And between the two of us, what do? We bumble along, hoping that you're bumbling along with us. We're doing the best that we can. You're doing the best that you can.
I do have.
So the show is much more aggressive. Yeah, you're right.
I'm looking forward to it. But who said there's anything wrong with dark humor? We need an outlet for that.
There you go. There you go.
Soon on the show, I'm trying to get hold of this guy. He's a psychologist, and he has studied the gamma brainwave frequency. Have you heard of that one, the gamma one?
No, I don't know.
Most people haven't. You got beta, alpha, theta, and delta. They're fairly well known, but there's one which is a very particular frequency, gamma, and it improves focus and performance. He's a performance psychologist, and he teaches simple ways to access that brain state on demand. And I'm going to get him on the show as soon as we can. A guy called Chris Walton. If you Google Chris Walton gamma mindset, you can look him up.
Do you think at night? Where am I going? Come on, finish the gag. What's his name?
Chris Walton. No, you're not going to do that.
Come on. Joe. Oh, come on. Come on.
No, I can't
finish
put my name.
Gag. Do you think he goes, good night, John boy. Good night, Chris. He's like, come back, you sniveling snake. Come back immediately. I like this. This is from Paul Claridge, who goes through hell in a handcart most days. God, his life. I don't know how. Again, it's like Chrissy. Tell that woman to get a cough fixed. In a crazy world, MRS is a beacon of light and hope. Hey, I tell you why I've been so upset recently. Obviously, for world events. But putting the politics, but put everything aside. Put everything aside for 1 second. For 1 second. I'm not getting into it. The most important thing that we have is hope. Hope, as I always say, was the last thing taken out of Pandora's box. Hope. If you've got hope, you can go through the darkest of days because you've got hope. You think you can move it forward. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. At the moment, the light at the end of the tunnel seems to be the express train hurtling towards us at, 100 miles an hour. I don't see.
Okay. And there's if you want the psychology of hope, there it is on the screen.
But what are you doing when you're battling mass madness? What do you do?
Be sane yourself.
Hope.
Don't battle the madness. Focus on your own sanity.
Well, I've had to. No, at Loggy, I've absolutely had to because I look around and I go, this is just horrendous. It's just horrendous. So, there we are. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I love this show. I love it because I never know. Neil kind of, just before we start, goes, shall I do that? I go, yeah, that sounds great. And then Neil just kind of riffs with it, and it's just. I will see you and the aforementioned Liz Saul on Sunday. I think you're at the.
Yeah, I hope to see you there, Julie. Come and say hello, and we'll have a cheeky sherbet.
Cheeky shepherd.
You can tell me about those heady nights at the bowling club.
Oh, she goes, there used to be a Lancia Gowan. Graham, you're right. I didn't put all your gags. Your gags were crackers today. I didn't put them up because Neil would have been upset. Everybody, I'll be back on Friday. Until then, if I can, say to you, try and stay out of trouble. Bye.